We've taken you from the pristine beaches of Pankor Island, Malaysia, to the rugged mountains of Lantau, Hong Kong. Now, the National Geographic Action Asia Challenge invites you to join us on an adrenaline-filled journey to Sun Moon Lake, Taiwan. Taiwan, a small island nation in East Asia, has emerged as one of the most powerful economic tigers in the region. With a population of 2 million, the capital city of Taipei is the center of the country's advanced transportation networks and bustling economic activity. But we travel 250 kilometers from Taipei to Nantao County, where lies one of Taiwan's scenic wonders, Sun Moon Lake. The lake takes its name from its shape, the northern end round like the sun and the southern half resembling a crescent moon. The area is home to the colorful traditions of the Shao people, one of Taiwan's 10 Aboriginal tribes, and an assortment of historical monuments and temples. The breathtaking landscape attracts visitors from all over the world, including the 63 teams who have come here to compete in the National Geographic Action Asia Challenge. Unlike last year's race, which took place under torrential rain, the weather station is signaling the all clear this time round, with an area of high pressure moving in to blow the clouds away. The actual course is not revealed to the teams before the race. But during the pre-race briefing, organizers ensure that the teams are well aware of all the necessary safety precautions.
Ladies? Okay? It's fine.
Race day, and there's just time for a few last-minute preparations before the short trip to the starting line. It's a long day ahead, but some teams are still able to let their hair down.
I got a brush, he's got a brush, and I got a brush.
Oh, beautiful.
7 a.m. and they're raring to go. In the start area, a rich Taiwanese pageant awaits the competitors.
Enjoying myself. Beautiful show, beautiful girls. Yeah, very good.
But most teams are too preoccupied to enjoy the spectacle. Great friends and rivals Gatorade Asia Nonstop and Ford No Boundaries will again be battling for supremacy.
We're not confident. We'll see how it goes. We'll just take the day as it comes and then see how it's going to go.
In the last race, it was really a close call. For a while, we had the race in our grasp, and then it slipped away just on the last uphill.
The day begins with a steep climb through an Aboriginal village, followed by a testing descent to the shores of the lake. Then a fast bike ride down to the transition area, where the teams pick up their kayaks for a 5.4-kilometer paddle via Lalu Island to a spectacular zip line. After a huge splash, they kayak another 2 kilometers to the foot of the Zhuangguan Temple. From there, it's a steep climb to the Suen Pagoda. Back to the lake for a short rowing test, and the teams head for a demanding 11-kilometer mountain bike course to Cho Shui River. Abseiling to the riverbed, they fight their way upstream through 14 river crossings to the finish line. As the drummers reach a crescendo, the racers are on their mark and ready to go. This will be one of the few chances that athletes have to enjoy a flat running surface. Some are determined to make the most of the easy terrain, sprinting from the start gate through the ornamental gardens. The top teams are expected to complete the race in about 5 hours. Slower teams will take around 8. But in such a demanding, multi-skilled event, almost 10% of competitors will never finish the entire course. Surprisingly, it's 50-year-old Gao Shanqi and his master's team Kun Yuan who are setting the pace. From his home in Taipei, 50-year-old Gao Shanqi will go just about anywhere for a race. Nicknamed Taiwan's Mr. Marathon, he's been competing for the past 30 years, and age is not slowing him down. 4 times a national champion in his 20s, he broke the Taiwanese record for the 100-kilometer supermarathon just 2 years ago.
If time permits, I will continue to take part. I'm interested in this challenge because it's not just running. There's a variety of events.
In last year's race, Gao and his team won the Masters event and finished in the top 5 overall. Will he be adding another trophy to his mantelpiece?
I'll try my best in the race. I know there's a lot of strong competition. I'll take it as a personal challenge, and I'll try my best.
While Team Kun Yuan lead the way, the athletes behind are already enjoying the thrill of the chase. Will these youngsters be able to catch up with the sprightly veterans? The next section of the race is a steady climb towards the crest of one of the hills surrounding Sun Moon Lake, and then a fast descent down to the shore. It's only 3 kilometers long, but the teams go through a variety of terrain. The slopes leading down to the lake get increasingly treacherous. The toughest stretch is strewn with jagged rocks. But Mr. Marathon, Gao Shanqi, won't be deterred. Even his teammates are struggling to keep pace. With sheer determination, final Kun Yuan team member Lin Fusheng overtakes Team Freestyle and strives to catch up with Gao.
We didn't have many problems because we're so used to this kind of terrain, running uphill and downhill. It's not difficult. We have an advantage because we are experts.
The teams require fixed ropes and hand lines to make their way down. Here, it's not just about being quick, but finding the right balance between speed and safety. As the other competitors continue to negotiate the tricky descent down to Sun Moon Lake, Team Kun Yuan is already setting off on their mountain bikes. It's now a short 3.5-kilometer ride to the transition area. But there's no time to lose. Fast on their heels are one of the favorites, Ford No Boundaries, taking full advantage of the downhill. Meanwhile, the 3 Hong Kong University students from Team Samsung barely notice the potential dangers of the rocky descent. In the women's competition, Bridget Niederberger and Chiaki Fjeldal are leading the way for Fitness First Angels. But they have lost sight of their compatriot, Michelle Bladen. Masters team Extreme Equinox 1 from Bangkok, Thailand are hoping to make up some ground on Team Kun Yuen. As the top teams pedal power their way to the next challenge, strong runners Team Kun Yuen have surrendered their lead in the biking section. Instead, it's Ford No Boundaries who are the first to arrive at the transition area.
I think after we had the bike section, and this is actually how we kind of hammered a little bit more, because we knew that we could keep some distance already because of the drafting, and we got a bit of an experience on the bike, more than some others. I mean, anyway, to keep as far as possible as from the other people.
With temperatures rising, dehydration is a real problem. Experienced teams won't make the mistake of passing water stations just to gain a few seconds. And they also have to take time out to put on the required safety gear. Trailing behind, Gatorade Asia Non-Stop hope to close the gap on their rivals Ford No Boundaries.
Our key competitors are very, very strong bikers. That's their specialty, and they took off, and we just sort of tried to stay in there. So no, we did fine. I think we hit the bike to kayak transition roughly at the moment we would have wanted to hit it.
In the mixed teams contest, the Dasis are leading the way. Now, each team has to split up into a double and a single kayak. They'll need to paddle their way to historic Lalu Island before heading round to find a cove containing the zip line. In calm waters, the top teams will make it to the zip line in under an hour, as long as their boats don't let them down. Ford No Boundaries gets off to a good start. But life is not as easy for their rivals.
When we went into the water, they were just, 50 meters ahead of us. We were counting on our, what we thought, stronger kayak skills to catch up on them. Turns out that we had picked a couple of kayaks, and this is a beginner's mistake, that were not properly inflated. To make things worse, I kicked open the valve on one of the kayaks, so suddenly you're sitting there and it goes psh, and you think, where does that sound come from? It dragged us down to a point where we could just stay with them and not drop them.
Still, life could get a lot worse. Fitness First Angels are strong contenders for the women's competition. They've already made a clean sweep of the last two challenges. And these girls can even give some of the men's teams a run for their money. They often finish in the top 15 in the overall standings. As a lecturer in sports psychology at Hong Kong University, team leader Michelle Bladen understands the psychology of pushing yourself to the limit better than most.
My main area of interest is obsessive behaviour in sport, exercise addiction, eating disorders. I want to know why people become very obsessive about sport, often to extreme cases where they will run for miles and miles for what seems no apparent reason and become very, very addicted to it. It's often been said that exercise addiction doesn't exist, and I based my studies and my research on that to try and prove that, whether there is such a thing as exercise addiction.
From the range of medals on display, it would be easy to make the assumption that Michelle and her teammates are suffering from some form of sports addiction. But Michelle has her own reasons for getting hooked on adventure racing.
I love the team element. I love the excitement and just not getting bored. There's always, you never really know what's coming up, so there's always that sort of surprise element, and you're always sort of looking at what's next. And it's really, because you have the team with you, you have the interaction between your team members, so it's always very interesting. I quite enjoy that.
In spite of their shaky start, Gatorade Asia Non-Stop finally manages to overtake Ford No Boundaries. As in past races, they've been able to rely on their superior kayaking skills. As the rest of the field tries to make waves, Asia Non-Stop's Philippe Guillo is the first to step ashore at the checkpoint on Lalu Island. The teams now have to find their way to the zip line. But how?
We were not given any instructions, sorry.
How did you get here?
Jet ski. Number 2, yeah.
We've got no instructions.
Fortunately, the local boats help steer them in the right direction. By the time Gao Shanqi reaches Lalu Island, his master's team has slowed down considerably.
We were more comfortable with a two-person kayak. It's more balanced. But the single-person kayak really slowed us down.
As the rest of the competitors make their way on land, they may be unaware that this unassuming island is actually a sacred site, home to the ancestral spirits of the Shao people. They are the original inhabitants of Sun Moon Lake, an age-old tribe whose rituals and folklore continue to be passed down from generation to generation. Every year, they celebrate the Harvest Festival with a dedication ceremony calling on their ancestors to bless the season's rice crop. They may be the smallest of Taiwan's 10 Aboriginal tribes, but the Shaos are determined to keep their traditions alive. Architect Xie Yin Jun is heading an ambitious housing reconstruction project. It seeks to teach the Shaos the skills they need to repair their homes, which were damaged by recent natural disasters.
We use simple construction material so that unskilled laborers can be involved.
While modernity will put pressure on their unique way of life, the Shaos are pulling together to stay true to the life of their ancestors. As the leading teams leave Lalu Island in their wake, they're approaching one of the highlights of the racecourse. That is, if they can keep their boats moving in the right direction. Michelle Bladen shows the others how to do it right. While Masters Team Extreme Equinox 1 continues their assault on Team Kun Yuan. Having located the correct cove, the teams head inland on a steep and tricky trail. It won't be long before they're back in the water, this time with a splash. The lead teams reach the zipline launch platform, 50 meters above the cove. Ford No Boundaries will have the pleasure of the inaugural plunge. But first, race organizers need to brief them on safety precautions.
What we want them to do, and what we'll brief them, is that they must not at any time put their hands up and grab the metal carabiner that is attached to the rope. Obviously they get a severe burn if they do that, or catch their fingers. And so it's best if they keep their hands down on their harness at all times.
As Fitness First Angels make their way to the platform, the first plunge of the day is already underway. the top of the zipline launch platform high in the forest canopy, the athletes are enjoying the adrenaline rush of a spectacular plunge into Sun Moon Lake. Also called the Flying Fox or the Death Slide, this zip line is a variation of the Tyrolean Traverse, which was first used to transport people and loads across gorges. While some of the athletes looked rather nervous as they are clipped in, Michelle Bladen and her team are old hands at this sort of thing. For them, it's just good fun.
That was really fun. Yeah, really enjoyed that. Quite scary, because you drop very fast down to the bottom, and I think I left my stomach at the top, so that was kind of funny. Yeah.
Out in the waters of the lake, the lead teams are already paddling away from the zip line. As the procession of athletes makes their way down to the water, there is a wide variety of styles on display, leading to an equally wide variety of landings. After this invigorating dunk, the teams now have to kayak 2 kilometers back to Zhuangguan Temple. Although the athletes may not know it, the waters of Sun Moon Lake are abnormally low at the moment. Built during the Japanese occupation, the Sun Moon Lake Dam controls the water level and supplies over 50% of Taiwan's hydroelectric power. As the leaders emerge from the waters of the lake, Gatorade Asia Nonstop has managed to sneak into first place. After so long cramped in the kayak, Philippe Guillot and his teammates prepare for another uphill test. Ford No Boundaries, meanwhile, are facing kayaking woes of their own.
The bad thing we actually did, I mean, we got really upset with that, with my cell body, because I actually picked the kayaks, and the kayaks I picked for these guys, for Daniel and Pedro, was actually deflated on the bottom, and that was actually too late to go back and then losing so much time. So this is actually the stage they caught us. And then basically, luckily, the section was a lot smaller, shorter, and we just got away enough. I think we were only like 4 or 5 minutes behind them at the end of the kayak, which was actually still a good thing because the race is still long to go.
Ahead of them lies a steep climb and descent of 4 kilometers before they hit the waters again for a short rowing test. The trail above Zhuangguan Temple is testing even for the elite athletes. Mixed team, the Dassies, made up of 2 Brits and a South African, are experienced marathon runners who never seem to run out of steam. While Team Samsung are unstoppable. The dense jungle trail demands complete concentration, but Philippe Brillo and his teammates are still going at maximum speed.
Oh, no worries. Just another 2 hours to go now.
Mother of 3, Chiaki Fieldal of Fitness First Angels, still finds time to set countless marathon records in Hong Kong. By the top of the climb, many of the athletes are finding the going tough. But at the crest of the hill, a breathtaking sight lies in wait. The magnificent Suen Pagoda. It's one of the most famous landmarks in Sun Moon Lake. 950 meters above sea level, the view of the lake from the pagoda is spectacular. In 1971, President Chiang Kai-shek built the pagoda in memory of his mother. Even some of the designs on the walls were inscribed by the president himself.
Yeah, Rob. Good. Very good or good? Very good. Someone needs to go up. Do you want to go? Yeah, okay. No, I can go.
Gatorade Asia Non-Stop arrived first at the entrance to the pagoda. Here, they'll have to go all the way to the tower, ring the bell, and make their way down. But a special surprise lies in store: the Spider-Man Challenge. The teams have to walk across a cargo net web suspended 5 stories in mid-air. Not a test for faint hearts. When the going gets tough, it's always great to get a helping tug. But 8 floors later, and many of the athletes are totally exhausted. After the rigors of the uphill, the descent through the forest is a welcome relief. The top women's team, Fitness First Angels, show that they have the legs to keep up with the best of them. Sun Moon Lake may be a popular tourist destination, but the visitors don't usually pile 3 people into a cramped rowing boat. Gatorade Asia Non-Stop are first to the test. The course is just 300 meters long, but every little bit of extra propulsion is welcome. As they head off to the next challenge, everybody else is getting in on the act. It's all hands on deck as every little wave counts. The turning point for the rowers is one of the many fishing boats that ply their trade on the waters of Sun Moon Lake. From the very beginning, fishing has been an important source of income for the local community. These days, the fishermen sell their daily catch to the many hotels and restaurants in the area. After the construction of the dam, these floating fish farms increased several-fold. Chao Xiu Liu and her husband have been breeding fish for over 15 years. Their most popular species is the president's fish, the most common fish found in the lake.
These fish are caught in China. It takes 2 to 3 years to raise them.
The fish gets its distinguished name because it's believed to be one of former President Chiang Kai-shek's favorite dishes. As the teams complete the rowing section, they're about to leave the fish farms behind and head into some very different terrain. But they don't go without a rousing send-off from the locals. as the teams leave the transition area, there's still some real testing terrain to come. Ahead of them lies 11 kilometers of strenuous mountain biking on the way to Cheongshui River and a battle with the river currents. Who will reach the finishing line first? The race is still wide open. It's 11 kilometers of steep climbs and exhilarating descents as the teams make their way to Cheongshui River. It's become a two-way contest between the race favorites. Gatorade Asia Non-Stop and Ford No Boundaries are neck to neck, and it's going to be a battle to the finish. On yet another one of the exhausting uphills, Ford No Boundaries finally make their move on Gatorade Asia Non-Stop. Strong bikers, they waste no time in extending their lead. As the athletes descend into the valley floor, the terrain changes abruptly. The public are not usually allowed into this area, but it's been opened up for the race with special precautions. There's evidence everywhere of a traumatic natural disaster. It measured 7.4 on the Richter scale. A massive earthquake that rocked central Taiwan on the 21st of September 1999, killing 1,700 people and injuring thousands of others. Nantao County was the epicenter of the quake, and Sun Moon Lake was badly hit. Lalu Island, sacred land of the Shaos, was devastated. At the National Center for Research for Earthquake Engineering, scientists are trying to minimize future damage. Through these simulation tests, they hope to learn how to build structures that can withstand the might of the quake.
The reason for this experiment is to simulate earthquakes of different magnitudes to see how they affect different places.
Today, Lalu Island and other monuments and buildings in Sun Moon Lake have been restored. After a $45 million reconstruction program, the area's popularity among visitors from all over the world is a sure sign of its recovery. Even gentle Mother Nature is back in full splendor. The splintered rocks that litter the road are proving to be a hazard for some of the teams.
Should have been a mechanic.
Should have been.
At the final transition area, it's a mad scramble as the teams head for perhaps the most technically demanding section of the race. Ford No Boundaries have opened up a significant lead on their great rivals, Gatorade Asia Non-Stop. But they're not taking it for granted.
They had a goal to catch us up, which was already a very good motivation. And the motivation being in lead is very different than being chased and chasing somebody.
Gatorade Asia Non-Stop soon hit the transition area, but they know they have some ground to make up.
By the time we hit the end of the bike, they were out of sight for us, and we were suspecting they were probably 3-4 minutes ahead of us, which was probably about right.
The teams now have to follow a steep, exposed ridgeline to the first abseil. Ford No Boundaries will be the first to go down the 15-meter rock face, attached, of course, to all the necessary safety gear.
First abseil on the big line, Trevor. Go, dudes!
2 teams already through, is it?
First team.
Yeah, you can go now.
But that's not all. Soon after, there's yet another, bigger 35-meter abseil to the riverbed. Meanwhile, at the last transition area, there's disappointment for those who have failed to make the cutoff point.
No. It is, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're finished.
No, you're not. No, not at all. I'm just sorry that we can't go down to the relatively fun part.
Oh, this is the cutoff
We're just going to have to redirect you to the next river exit.
Okay.
But luckily, it's not the end of the road. They won't get to abseil, but they'll be allowed to continue and finish the rest of the race.
On to the next ride down.
I will.
Just cross river.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. See you at the finish line.
For the leaders, it's almost time to battle the mighty river currents.
The river run is probably the toughest part of the course, so the athletes at this stage are really tired, they're exhausted, but they're going to be in that riverbed probably for an hour and a half or 2 hours in some cases.
Ford No Boundaries may still be on top, but Gatorade Asia Non-Stop are determined to play catch-up.
Sure, we were slowly eating away at that lead. We were sort of measuring how often we came on them on the river crossings, where there was a lot of river crossings with ropes. We were trying to hook in, hook out a little bit quicker than they did. And at some point I was on the same rope as their last guy. And the plan was, the theory was, okay, once we get out of this riverbed, we're hoping for a big long uphill, and that's where we'll try and kick in.
Throughout the day, Fitness First Angels have paced themselves superbly, and in the midday heat, they are still going strong. 50-year-old Gao Shanqi is fighting hard in the face of the fast-flowing currents.
The river was really fast, but there were safety precautions, so I had no problem. I found it quite exciting.
The undertow is far stronger than it appears on the surface of the river, and the athletes aren't finding it easy to keep their footing. And it's not just once. The teams will have to negotiate 14 river crossings. Ford No Boundaries emerged from the riverbed first for the last steep climb towards the finishing line. While Fitness First Angels hook up to confront nature's fury.
It got a little bit tedious towards the end. It was hard work, and I think that's where most people experience it, kind of large, the energy sap. Towards the end, I think we lost our patience a little bit. It just seemed to go on and on, but yeah, we were glad to see the finish.
Over the last few hundred meters, the leaders can't afford to relax. Gatorade Asia Non-Stop are only a minute behind.
Good job, man. Keep it up, keep it up.
But after 4 hours and 41 minutes of tough racing, it's Ford No Boundaries who crossed the line first. And they have even more reason to celebrate. It's their second win in a row.
Well done, well done. Brilliant job, guys.
The relentless challengers, Philippe Guillot, Chris Fjelldal and Nicholas Gontard from Gatorade Asia Non-Stop, come home second. If they're disappointed not to win, they don't show it. Both teams seem happy just to have shared the experience.
It feels very good, actually. I mean, I personally had a very hard time at the last end of the riverbed. The whole race was actually very good, very fantastic. Pretty stressful, actually, because the technique wasn't very hard. But you still had to keep going. The heart rate, I'm sure, went pretty high very much all the time. But I'm very pleased to once again finish first. It's great. It's good news again.
I'm not waiting for Nokia. Oh my God. I have a spot here. What are you doing there, Fred? I can't see anymore.
We have to train more and maybe to improve some skills, especially bikes. And yeah, this is our weakness, I think.
The Darcys are the first home for the mixed teams, just over an hour behind the leaders.
Fabulous, wow.
And Fitness First Angels lead the women's teams more than 2 hours ahead of their closest rivals.
Team element, I think, is really critical, particularly in the longer races. When you're having a tough time, sometimes your team members can help you, and that word of encouragement, and that really helps. Just also being tied or connected to your team members if they're feeling strong, it just helps, just keeps you moving forward. And I think psychologically that's critical to these type of events.
Good job.
I love Taiwan!
The ever-exuberant Team Equinox Extreme 1 celebrate winning the Masters race, while Gao Shanqi's Team Kunyuan settle for second.
We've done our very best. I think the foreign teams did very well. The Taiwanese are still new to this kind of racing. But as long as we practice more, we'll get better.
For all the athletes, it's been a challenging day through some very tough terrain. But for everyone who crosses the finishing line, the memories of a stunning journey through Sun Moon Lake, Taiwan will last for a long time to come.